Hello, I'm Doug Gentili, President Emeritus of James II Association. I'm going to read out of the book of James, chapter 1, verse 2 and 3. Consider it pure joy, my brothers and sisters, whenever you face trials of many kinds, because you know that this testing of your faith develops perseverance. What you're going to hear from this video is joy has nothing to do with your feelings, because you'll see what I was facing, but the joy comes from promises from God and assurances, and then you're going to get a really good demonstration in this video about perseverance. Now, most of you know that I have late-stage cancer, and for 11 years, God has kept me alive. Late-stage cancer, miraculously. Mostly to do multi-ethnic evangelism, but also to try to bridge the racial divide. So whenever I talk about my cancer, I usually wear the a chemo beret, So now, the cancer for all these years has created insomnia, but it's something that I was able to manage pretty well. Get 4 or 5 hours of sleep, and it didn't affect my life at all. But then I was beset with a second illness, which was temporary, but it was pretty intense because it affected one of my vital organs. So the combination of those disrupted my sleep to the point that I was only getting 2 to 3 hours of sleep per night. Now, it's very interesting because my daughter-in-law's sister, who's a nurse, at some point in this trial looked at me and said, he called Mr. G, Mr. G, the amount of sleep deprivation you have will turn you into a different person. Well, how right she was. Because when I started getting the 2 to 3 hours of sleep, I started getting hallucinations. I would close my eyes and get weird images, and made me very depressed. During the days, I didn't feel like doing anything. I mean, I forced myself to do some errands and do things for God out of obedience, but my feelings were, I don't want to do anything. Okay, so it became pretty intense, and then because I was so weak, Satan jumped into the picture. I was getting all kinds of crazy thoughts, not just very bad thoughts that were very unwelcome, like you're going to hell, you're no good, your life is over. I'd get unwelcome racial slurs coming at me, curse words, all this stuff that was involuntary. I didn't want it, and I kept asking God to take it away. It got to the point where the demon, I was under intense demonic attack. For several days, I would feel like a very uncomfortable spasm going from my head down to my toes and back again, and it was like a knife cutting into me. Now, in Christian theology, we know that a Christian cannot be possessed by a demon, but that didn't stop them from trying. I say, well, how do I know it was a demon and not some kind of neurological thing? Well, let me tell you what would happen. Every time I would say the word Jesus, this uncomfortable feeling would flare up. Okay, and it was just pretty bad. One night, I went to sleep, or trying to get to sleep, I should say. I was kind of half asleep, and then I heard an audible voice. It was like a taunting, audible voice, and my eyes were closed, and I heard a voice saying, "There are three of us. Do you want to see us?" Well, at that point, when the images started to come into me, I just opened my eyes, said, "Okay," and I put my TV on. I was really shaken up. Yeah, I mean that was a pretty intense experience. So eventually, I closed my eyes again, and what came into my thought pattern, I saw flames in front of me, just flames all over, and I felt myself walking into the flames and feeling no pain. This actually happened. I mean, it was like a reenactment of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, and it was like God telling me out of Psalm 55:22, "I will never let the righteous fall." That yeah, I was praying through this, and you know, he let me know that he is with me even through this trial. Well, guess what? It gets worse. Pretty soon, I found myself doing some action and having no recollection of it. There was I always turn the TV off when I go to bed. I woke up in the middle of the night, the TV was on. I turned it on in my sleep. And the same thing happened with with some Benadryl that I was taking for the insomnia, because I always keep it at a certain place. I looked, it wasn't there, and I looked through different drawers, and it was in a different drawer where I never put it. So at that point, it became obvious to me that I had a sleepwalking problem. Now, I did the research on it, and it said it's probably not a satanic thing, because when you have severe depression, sleepwalking can be an issue. Well, I was really concerned, because I had no control over my body at that point. I could do anything, and I found something very frightening online, and that is that there were documented homicides with people who were sleepwalking. So the first thing I did was get anything out of the house that can be used as a weapon. And at one point, I also I drove out to a DC suburb and checked myself into a hotel and tried to stay away from my family and anybody and everybody else. And I did for 2 or 3 days until I was able to get a sleepwalking alarm. You put it on the floor. It creates a field when your foot touches the ground. A loud alarm goes off. To keep me from doing crazy things. Well, at that point, it was clear that this was an unsustainable situation. So my kids accompanied me to the emergency room of Inova Fairfax Hospital, and they said, well, I would probably have to be inpatient, because they would have to try to see what kind of drugs would put me to sleep, because I went in for the insomnia, but I also have these other things going on, but I went in for the insomnia. And then I got a pretty amazing shock in the emergency room. They said, we will admit you, and go through these insomnia tests, but Mr. Gentili, you have tested positive for COVID, so you need to be isolated, for the time you're here. So I was a prisoner. They locked me in a room. I could not come out. There was nothing in the room. I mean, absolutely no TV, nothing, except the kind of bed you may find in a homeless shelter. And at one point, I packed a radio, in case they admitted me, which they did. Now here's something really wild. it was a radio that had batteries and also an electrical cord. They said, we will only let you use the radio if you turn in the cord to security. And I said, why? What's that? They said, well, Mr. Gentili, you can strangle yourself with it. And I was like, what? You know, and the thing is, when every time a doctor would come into my room or a nurse would come into my room, they would say, Mr. Gentili, do you have thoughts of suicide? And every time I would answer, because I kept my faith. And I said, my faith does not allow me to take my life. No matter how terrible I was feeling, I knew that's, you know, I could not go in that direction. So, you know, and just a cautionary word for anybody who is listening to this video. If you're feeling really down and you have to get medical help, and if you ever say to a healthcare professional that, you know, if they ask you, do you have serious thoughts of suicide? If you say yes, they're going to call 911, have the police come, put you in handcuffs, and then involuntarily commit you to psych ward and lock you up. Yeah, so just a word of caution here. Now, that was kind of like the pit of the valley, and you know, and I was asking God. I said, look, what do I have? I've got cancer. I've got side effects from the cancer and the treatments. I've got depression. I've got hallucinations. I've got disturbing thoughts. I have sleep anxiety. I have satanic attack, and on top of that, I have COVID. And I'm saying, God, I'm not going to take my life, but what are you doing with this? I mean, is this the end? I mean, it's like I didn't see how I can get through all this, but He did. I got through it, and toward the end, when they saw that I no longer had any COVID symptoms, they dropped the restriction, and I can come out. And even though I was feeling terrible, by the grace of God, I was able to share the gospel with a couple of patients and actually lead a Bible and actually lead a prayer meeting the day before I was to come out. And now is where God started to turn this around. And the amazing thing is that the drug that they found to try to make me sleep was not their idea. I had done some research, because since I was so sick, I was always online looking up different things, and I came across this drug, which is prescribed for hallucinations mainly. It's called Seroquel. So I actually suggested to the doctor, how about Seroquel? And he said, okay, let's try it. Well, guess what? In the hospital, I was able to get some decent sleep. And then they put another drug in there, and I was discharged. And I started being able to sleep. Now I was still sick for 2 or 3 weeks after that. I still had some residual stuff, but it came to a point where God showed me these two medicines, that they're non-addictive and they have minimal side effects, and I was able to get a few hours of sleep. And it came to a point after about 3 weeks that by God's miraculous hand, it all went away. The depression, the sleep anxiety, the hallucinations, everything gone by the grace of God. I just want to aside here. The doctor I was dealing with outside of the hospital, he wanted to make sure I can get some sleep, so he prescribed what's called a benzo. I don't know if you know what a benzo is. It's not a narcotic, but it's a controlled substance. which can be addicting. So he put me on it every other day to try to reduce um, the chance of addiction. Well, guess what? Um, I stopped using the benzo when I was cured, and I had no withdrawal from that. In fact, what I did, I mean, they had me all, all the sleep medicine they had tried wasn't working, and other things I was doing, other ailments I had. I had all kinds of pharma prescriptions. One day I went into the CVS that I normally use, and I gave the CVS guy, I call him Buffalo John. He's a good friend of mine, and he's taking care of me through all this healthcare crap. And I gave him a list of six prescription drugs to cancel. Gone. I'm telling you, I mean, I don't. You read about perseverance. I lived it. At one point, maybe 3 or 4 days after I came out of the hospital, God finally answered the prayer, and all the satanic attack was gone. And it was just, I kept praying through it. I was very transparent with my church, very transparent with my ministry, and people were praying for me, and I was praying, and God answered those prayers in a spectacular way. Because when I came out of the other end of this trial, I was so fired up for Jesus that I started doing things that I didn't do before. I would just walk up to people in the street and start talking about Jesus. I would buy a homeless person a sandwich and then witness to them about Jesus. I started going to campus more often. And something amazing happened. Today's July 27th, I think. Yesterday, July 26th. You know that God, one of the callings that God gives me is trying to reach out and cross the racial divide. So I would occasionally find where there's been segregation or exclusion and things like that. Before I got sick, that would happen maybe every 3 months or so. Well, in a 24-hour period, from July 26th to July 27th, there were four success stories where I had reached out to try to encourage more diversity because there wasn't any. And in 4 cases, the diversity was there. For instance, I'll give examples. The K-Love 2024 tour, it was a cruise, and they had no racial diversity. So we had, I kind of led an advocacy campaign to try to convince them to do it. Well, guess what? The 2025 cruise, they planned lots of diversity. There was a journal which only featured white Christians. Well, as a result of my advocacy campaign, all of a sudden they started putting diversity in there. There was a big festival, where they had only white bands, and I was pressing them hard to be diverse. This year, yesterday, I found out they have diverse bands. And then there was a college I reached out to, and they had an all-white student government, all-white everything. And after I reached out to them, they had appointed a student, a diversity advocate, who was an African American, to try to address the diversity issues. Now, I'm not claiming that it was my advocacy that created those diversity successes. Maybe I had nothing to do, maybe other people. But the thing is, but no matter what, God showed me success stories and answered prayers 4 times in one 24-hour period. And every day in my life, I'm just so grateful. I'm so on fire for Jesus, that if you're out there and you don't have any relationship with Jesus, I want you to understand that this is real. All these miracles that happened of 11 years with late stage cancer, which I still have, by the way, that was not cured. I still have the cancer with the side effects. That I want you to understand, if you haven't had a relationship with Jesus Christ, we are separated from God because of our sin. We're fallen. We have dark hearts. We have sinful patterns, and the only way that we could be reconciled to God is when He sent Jesus Christ down to die on the cross and give us the opportunity to repent from our sins and have a deep relationship with Jesus Christ that transforms us and allows things to happen like happened in my life, and it guarantees eternal life in the next life. So, and I don't want to be Pollyannish about this. I want to be realistic that I'm 74 years old and still have a deadly disease, which is late stage. So at any time, I mean, I could have some serious health issues. I know that. But now I'm just taking one day at a time, and every day is a blessing. Every day is a thrill. Every day I just want to walk with Jesus. I ask Him just create opportunities for me with my Jesus and family. That's my life, and I wouldn't give it up for anything. And I just pray that you're all encouraged and are saved by this amazing testimony. Not anything I did. It's God. It's God. God got me through all this. So I just want to say peace and out.